Welcome back to this week's video where we're going to be doing another tier ranking list where I'm going to take too many things and try to squish it into one video. Today we're going to be ranking the James Bond movies. You can kind of consider this like a, hey, these are the ones you should watch, these are the ones you shouldn't watch. Let me go get my James Bond stuff. I'm a big James Bond fan. I got my 50th anniversary Blu-ray collection right here. So let's go ahead and get into it. And so maybe we can learn something about which James Bond movies are better than others. Alrighty. We're going to go chronologically, which means we're going to start with Dr. No, which was released in the UK in 1962, but didn't come over into the US until 1963. That's kind of how they did it for a while. The bad guy in Dr. No is Dr. No. You get a lot of stuff introduced in this movie that shows up in like a lot of James Bond movies. No theme song, no title track, no pop song. They just used the James Bond theme song. Spectre, though, the organization that kind of goes against James Bond, is introduced. Felix Leiter is introduced. Moneypenny and M are introduced, so a lot of characters that are going to kind of be showing up time and time again. This one is good. I think that Dr. No is good. I don't think it's the best Sean Connery at all, not even like that first trilogy. It's definitely not the best, but I do enjoy it, and so I'm going to put it in B category for us, B ranking on that one. Next up, we got From Russia with Love, which I do like more than Dr. No. It's the first James Bond movie to introduce Q, which is cool. He's the guy who does all the gadgets and everything. You get Robert Shaw from Jaws is in this movie, and he fights James Bond on a train. Train fights are always going to up the ante for us, at least just a little bit. I think this one is better than Dr. No. It might be no, it's not my favorite of the original three, but it is going to put us in A tier. So there we go. Moving on, we get Goldfinger, which has our first Shirley Bassey theme song. Goldfinger. It's like that. This is an S tier. James Bond doesn't really do a ton. He kind of gets captured and everything. But again, just a lot of iconography in this James Bond movie. This is the first one where he drives an Aston Martin. This is where Oddjob is in this one. Just the name Goldfinger even is iconic when it comes to James Bond. It just makes you think about the series. It isn't the first kind of double entendre name that there is, but it's, to me at least, the first gratuitous one where you have a character named Pussy Galore. So there's that. But this movie is just awesome, and so gonna be S tier for me. And we're gonna go from probably the best Sean Connery James Bond to one of the worst Sean Connery James Bonds with Thunderball. I know there's some people who like this movie. I am not one of them. It's kind of boring to me. If a James Bond movie takes place in water, it kind of slows everything down. If you're gonna fight in water, it's harder. It takes longer. You can't move as fast. So pretty much any James Bond movie that is a water James Bond movie. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be a little bit lower. I don't think that it's, because being slow is like being boring, and that's the worst thing a James Bond movie could be. And so we're going to put it, Thunderball, for me personally, in F tier. I'd say you could skip Thunderball. But we come back with You Only Live Twice, which was a James Bond movie written by Roald Dahl. That's right, the children's author. Him and Ian Fleming were buddies, and so they did the favor of writing this movie, writing the script for it. This is another one that really has a lot of iconic James Bond stuff. You get Blofeld in full picture for the first time, not just a hand petting a cat or anything, played by Donald Pleasance, who's a great actor and a lot of fun. You've got the secret volcano base that they're going to make fun of in Austin Powers and everything. It ends with a big fight between two kind of armies and everything. For me, You Only Live Twice is a solid James Bond movie. It's not a top tier or anything. I'm going to put it above Dr. No, though, in our B tier. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is going to be the first time that James Bond is played by a different actor. George Lazenby steps up to the plate, and even though he only gets this one movie, I think maybe this is why I feel like he does a good job, but I do think he does a good job because he does one movie, the movie is good, you got a lot more emotion than you do in like especially like a lot of the earlier ones. Like you believe the chemistry between him and the girl, and then some stuff that happens later in the movie, which I don't necessarily want to spoil for you. You feel the emotions behind it and everything, and so I think that this is a good one. Again, a B tier, but I'm going to put it above those other two Sean Connery ones. I'm going to put those above You Only Live Twice and Dr. No. Honor Majesty's Secret Service is, pretty fun. And man, what an ending. I don't know if it was Sean Connery wanting to make sure that everybody knew he was the best or whatever, but he comes back to be James Bond again in Diamonds Are Forever, which has another great theme song. Diamonds are forever, forever, forever. Another Shirley Bassey, which is, pretty good. And as good as the song is, though, the movie is not. Diamonds Are Forever is bad. It is not boring, so it's definitely better than Thunderball, but it's not good. It's crazy. They're in Las Vegas. Blofeld dresses in drag to be disguised and everything. He's walking around with his cat wearing a dress and everything. It's not a good disguise either. I don't think it's an F tier with the song almost by itself, but I am going to put Diamonds Are Forever in D tier. D for Diamonds. Luckily, though, we get to Roger Moore, and here's probably the most controversial thing I'll say in this video. I think Roger Moore might be my favorite. Roger Moore looks like he's having the most fun being James Bond, and because of that, it's fun to watch him be James Bond. And so we get to him. This is another iconic James Bond movie. Live and Let Die has a great theme song by Paul McCartney, performed by Wings. It's got a fun villain with Dr. Kananga, played by Yaphet Kotto, who is a great actor. He's awesome in Alien. His death is especially satisfying and fun. Solitaire is the Bond girl in this one, played by the Dr. Quinn medicine woman, Jean Seymour. And so just a lot of fun stuff happening in this one. I'm going to put Live and Let Die up here in the A tier, and we're going to put it right below From Russia with Love. We follow up Live and Let Die with The Man with the Golden Gun, where we have Christopher Lee playing the bad guy, Francisco Scaramanga. He is, the man with the golden gun, and he's an assassin, and he shoots people with his golden gun. The golden gun is iconic because of how it was featured in the Nintendo 64 Goldeneye game, where it's like a one-hit kill, and so it was automatic man, you got to get that gun in the game so you can, one-hit kill people. But in this movie, he's just good at, killing people. And he's got his sights set on James Bond. He does have a sidekick named Knick Knack, who is fun. He's played by the guy from Fantasy Island. So I'm going to give The Man with the Golden Gun, though, I'm going to give it a B. We're going to put it right above Dr. No. Now we come to July of 1977, where we're going to have The Spy Who Loved Me. Now this movie has my favorite James Bond theme song out of all of them, by Carly Simon. But again, just because the song is good doesn't mean that the movie is good. It's another water one. It's another slow one. And so I'm really going to put this one in C. C ones I think are just, you can kind of forgettable. But, you watch it on TV and it's James Bond, and that's better than nothing. And you know what happened in 1977? Star Wars came out, which means that in the next movie that James Bond was in, Moonraker, he's going to go to space, and they're going to do Star Wars stuff. There's a huge space battle where the United States government shows up, and they have rocket packs, and they're shooting lasers at Drax's army. Drax is the bad guy, not that Drax, but the other one, the Drax who's in James Bond. Dave Bautista will show up later, but he's not here yet. This is the second James Bond movie to have Jaws in it, which I guess is really the only reason to put The Spy Who Loved Me in C tier, but he shows up again in this one, and this movie is crazy. Again, so not boring, but really just weird. And so I'm going to put this one again in the same spot. It's definitely better than Diamonds Are Forever. That's not a question. I wouldn't, for me, D and F tier are bad. C is okay. B is recommend, A is highly recommend, and then S is you need to watch this movie. Even in if you have no interest in James Bond, you should watch this movie. Now, after Moonraker came out, though, they decided, hey, we should make James Bond a little more grounded again and more realistic. And so they came out with For Your Eyes Only. I honestly don't remember anything about this one. I guarantee you I've seen it. I've watched every James Bond movie. But I do not remember like anything about this movie. And that's not what you want. So I'm not going to feel comfortable putting it in F. But I am going to put it in D. I'm going to put it below there. So if this one's actually really good and I should watch it again, hey, hit me up and let me know in the comments below. We get another awesome theme song with All Time High on the movie Octopussy, which you can tell, like, yeah, I guess we don't want a song called Octopussy, so we're going to have a song called All Time High. I don't blame them for that. In fact, they probably just should have called the movie All Time High. It's an odd name for a movie and an odd name for a character. But this one is, again, a weird one to watch. It's a lot of like circus stuff is in it. Roger Moore dresses up like a clown in this movie. So it's not taking itself very seriously, which it doesn't have to. Again, Roger Moore's having fun doing this stuff. But he is dressed like a clown. And I don't know if that's something I really want to see James Bond do. And so I'm going to go ahead and put Octopussy again. I'm going to put it high D tier. Because again, I don't have a lot of fond memories of it. I could be remembering wrong, but this is where it lands for me. Man, I really like these theme songs in this era because Duran Duran does the theme song for A View to a Kill. And it is a lot of fun. The movie is very weird and kind of uneven. The first bit and the last bit, I think, are good, but there's a part in the middle of this movie that really gets into horse racing for whatever reason. And I mean, I know why, for the plot, but it's important to remember that the plot is not important in any James Bond movie. Like, you could really change out what is actually happening in the story among like almost 70% of these movies and it wouldn't matter at all. Like, that's not why you're here. You're here to watch James Bond do cool stuff. You're here to watch him be suave. You're here to watch the gadgets. You're here to hear the song. You're here to see him fight the bad guys, which are cool. That's what you want from James Bond. The stories are usually way too confusing and have too much going on, but it's just to get James Bond from place to place and from stuff to blow up to stuff to blow up to girls to kiss and martinis to drink and cards to play. So if a James Bond movie is doing that well and not having me like think about what's going on too much, like with the horse racing in this one, then it's doing its job. This one gets too caught up on that, but it does have a couple perks for it. It does have Christopher Walken in the role of the villain, playing Max Zorin. Grace Jones, who is like a prominent celebrity at the time, plays Mayday. She's just super tall and it's a very like unique looking person, and so it's cool that like she gets this opportunity to like be in this movie and in this role where it's confusing what part. I mean, she's obviously a bad guy, but like she has moments where she's good and stuff, and so it's cool that she actually has stuff to do that does not always happen. It's got a blimp in this movie. Blimps are cool. I mean, blimps are in The Rocketeer, and The Rocketeer is awesome, so blimps are always going to help us up a little bit. But this is going to be Roger Moore's last James Bond movie. Roger Moore was 58 years old when this movie came out, which is like my dad being James Bond, which is crazy. And that's the main reason why Roger Moore stopped being James Bond even, because he was in this movie and he was on the set and he was talking with Tanya Roberts, who was his romantic lead. He was talking with her mom on the set and realizing that he was older than her mom, and he's realizing how old he's getting. He's like, how crazy is this that I am, still doing this? Is this unrealistic? Is this not good? And I don't want to be a joke, like, because it kind of starting to feel that way. It's like he's like getting up in there in age, and it's not that they weren't like adjusting the story to accommodate that, and you could do that, but they weren't, and they were just being like, yeah, he's still going to be hooking up with 22-year-olds, and it's like, maybe don't do that. But anyway, View to a Kill, I do kind of like it, and so I'm gonna put it high C. I'm putting it at the highest C that there is. Now we're going to get to who I think is the most underrated James Bond, Timothy Dalton. I don't think he's the best, but I do think he gets a bum rap. He only gets 2 movies, but he is good in the role. He gets these 2 movies that are really pretty gritty, though there is a scene in The Living Daylights where he does ride in a cello case down the side of a mountain. So I guess it's not that serious. This movie has an awesome theme song by Aha, you know, the guys who did Take On Me. It's not my favorite of the 2 that he does, but I do like it, and so I'm going to put it at a C. This is probably the one that I'll rate the highest that is like not the best, because I really like License to Kill. Came out the year I was born. Maybe that's why I like it. Theme song by Gladys Knight. It's the darker of these 2. It's up until this point, it was like the darkest James Bond had ever been. And we kind of get pretty dark with Daniel Craig later on. But this movie has a scene where an established character in the series gets like his legs eaten off by a shark as a form of torture. And so, you know, it's not like the most happy one that has come out. James Bond does something he does every once in a while where he goes rogue and he's like going against the government because he's got to accomplish this mission that he set out for himself. We got some good bad guys in this one too, with Benicio del Toro really stealing the show as like the sadistic sidekick to the main villain. So I guess that means I'm gonna have to put License to Kill up in the A tier. But we're finally going to get to add another movie to the S tier. Goldeneye, I think, is my favorite of what we've covered so far. In fact, I just watched this movie. Tina Turner does the theme song. It's a banger. We got a new James Bond, Pierce Brosnan, coming in. He was James Bond when I was a kid, so he's just the guy who I think of as James Bond. We also get a new M, which is James Bond's boss, played by Judi Dench. The role was originally played by a guy, so it really kind of changes up everything. And she's having a lot of fun with this character, and she does so even more as it goes along. She gets a lot more to do when it gets into the Daniel Craig movies. This movie is just really iconic with all of its side characters too, with Alex Trevelyan, with Natalia, with Boris, with
Xenia Sergeyevna Onatop.
Onatop?
Onatop.
Yeah, her too. But don't forget that Robbie Coltrane's in this movie, which means it's Hagrid time.
Sorry I'm late.
Lots of cool action in this movie from start to finish. You got the tank scene, you got the big fight at the end, like on the satellite dish. You get the dam jump at the beginning where he bungee jumps off the dam. A lot of cool stuff in this movie. The story is not too complicated too, which I think, again, is beneficial, right? Because sometimes there's just too much going on in these movies and you just can't keep track. And so for me, Goldeneye threads that needle of like having a good enough story where I care what happens, because it's also got some emotional beats in it, like motivations for him, not just like I gotta save the world, but like I'm personally want to take care of this problem. And so because of that, to me, it's the best. And I could definitely see people arguing Goldfinger is better, but for me personally, I'm gonna ride on Goldeneye. We're gonna go from it being a personal thing to just having to save the world with Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies, the bad guy's plan is he wants to start World War III, so that way he can publish, newspapers talking about it, and like have his news network be showing stuff about it. He's like a news mogul, a guy, a Rupert Murdoch type, and it's just not a good motivation. He's not a physical threat. He's not a mental threat. He's nothing. This guy is not cool at all. Michelle Yeoh, though, is a fun sidekick for James Bond. She does a lot of cool action. There is, again, some good action in this movie. I think in all of the Pierce Brosnan ones, there's moments of good action and everything, and he's doing a good job being James Bond. But this one is pretty forgettable, and I'm going to put it in the C tier. How high in the C tier? Let's go right below The Living Daylights. I'm really torn on this next one though, because The World Is Not Enough has some cool stuff in it, but at the same time, it's got a scientist in it whose name is Christmas Jones. And I'm not going to blame Denise Richards for her that being her character's name. I'm not going to blame her for the way the scientist dresses when she's doing science stuff, but it doesn't help the movie. But on the flip side of that, it does have, a fun twist with the other Bond girl, and then the kind of muscle bad guy in this one. He's got a situation going on where like he can't feel pain, which is cool. And so like he's kind of a different threat. You can't like make him stop. You've got to kill him, and so that's an interesting thing. With all that being said, though, it's not like crazy memorable for me personally, and so I think it's gonna land in the C tier, and I'm gonna put it above. I'm gonna go below. Yeah, because Michelle Yeoh is just cool in this one, and she's not in this movie. I can tell you for sure, though, we are at the worst Pierce Brosnan one with Die Another Day, theme song by Madonna, starring Halle Berry as Jinx, who they were trying to set up to have her own series and everything, and that failed spectacularly. This movie involves James Bond being kidnapped by North Korea and tortured for like a year straight. He blows diamonds into a guy's face, and then they don't call him Diamond Face. I mean, come on, you should. James Bond is in front of a green screen surfing on a tidal wave at one point in this movie. Just not a lot of good in it. And I think I'm gonna put it down here, bottom D. I would go F maybe, but it's not like boring. Again, like you can watch it and talk about how bad it is, which can be fun, like with the right people. And so I think that's where it's gonna land. It's gonna land in D. I think we're gonna end up having the only F tier be Thunderball, and that could be sacrilege for some people, and I might be hearing about it, but please do let me know. Again, this is just what I would recommend for people. It doesn't mean it's right, but I'd stand by it. Die Another Day was the last James Bond movie where Pierce Brosnan played the title role, so we move on to our newest and current James Bond, at least for the time being, Daniel Craig with Casino Royale. Now, as much as Pierce Brosnan was James Bond when I was a kid, and so like just in pop culture, that's who I absorbed, Daniel Craig was really the first James Bond that like I personally really got invested in it and started watching the movies. And like I think it was the first time I saw a James Bond movie in theaters was Casino Royale. Like my family was not a big James Bond family, and so I didn't watch him a bunch growing up, but I did start getting into it with Casino Royale, and so it helps that it's a good one. It's a very good one. It's got awesome action sequences, and then it really kind of slows down for the card game. It's got good characters with Le Chiffre. Mads Mikkelsen is a great actor, and so to have him as your bad guy, and it's got his cool thing where like he bleeds from his eye if he's stressed out and lying and everything. And Eva Green is fantastic Bond girl as Vesper, and because she's actually has a character to play, her own motivation, since she's not just along for the ride, but she's like very much her own person. I'm gonna say easily Casino Royale is an S tier James Bond movie, and I'm gonna put it above Goldfinger. Again, S tier is all good. Like you should watch all of these S tiers. Everybody should watch them. Quantum of Solace, though, the sequel to Casino Royale, which they're not always sequels to James Bond movies, sometimes directly reference what happened before. This one definitely does. In fact, all of these Daniel Craig ones really do feed into each other. But Quantum of Solace is, in my opinion, the worst. I know it's not everybody's opinion, but it's, in my opinion, the worst of the Daniel Craig ones, probably because I just don't remember a ton about it. I remember the theme song by Jack White and Alicia Keys, and how it's not very good. And so for me, that's going to put this one down in the D tier, but we're going to go very top of D tier. Now we're going to go from, again, a lower one to another high one, and I'm going to put Skyfall below Goldfinger, but S tier also. I mean, when you look at Daniel Craig's James Bond movies, he's got a pretty good record, better than most anybody else who's played James Bond. The theme song by Adele for Skyfall also is a reason why it gets up there. It's got a great theme song. Skyfall has one of the coolest bad guys with Javier Bardem playing Silva. M gets like a ton of stuff to do. Judi Dench does. And then by the end of this movie, you get a new M. with Ralph Fiennes. You know, Voldemort's in it, and then you also introduce your new Q, who's played by Paddington. Ben Whishaw is in that role. You get a new Moneypenny, and so really you're kind of getting back into those James Bond things, the things that, you know, were familiar to people who actually like were fans of the series, and that's exciting to see what they do with it. Moneypenny's way different. She's like an agent in the field. She knows how to fight. That's different. Before she was just a secretary, and so to see those kind of like updates on those characters and everything, with Q being a younger guy as opposed to like an older dude, just fun stuff. So we get to the last movie that we're going to be able to actually rate with Spectre, and I'm going to put Spectre in A tier. I'm going to go the bottom of A tier, but I like Spectre. It's goofy James Bond stuff. You shouldn't be taking it too seriously. It's not like Casino Royale where the story is like super serious and everything, but it's got stuff that I like in it for sure. It's got a train fight. It's got Dave Bautista. It's got Christoph Waltz playing Blofeld. These are all good things, in my opinion. It's some of the retconning that they do in the movie. I can understand why people might not like it, but I kind of like that stuff because real life doesn't work that way very often. And so it's fun to see things be connected in ways that don't really make sense and make somebody, you know, like a bigger threat than maybe you would have thought they were if they were just introduced like as a new bad guy. Could they have done it in a better way? Sure, of course they could. But I like the ways that they did do it. Which brings us to No Time to Die. And here's the thing about this movie. The release of this movie is a tragedy. Because it was originally supposed to come out when they announced it. Hey, we're making another James Bond movie. Daniel Craig is back. It's called No Time to Die. It's coming out in October of 2019. And you're like, sounds great. And they're like, well, there's some production issues. We're going to push it back to February of 2020. Again, that's fine. That happens all the time. But then they're like, oh, you know what? A couple more things have happened, and we're going to push it to April. But don't worry, it's coming out in April of 2020. And we're all like, yes. And then Daniel Craig is on SNL, and they've got skits about James Bond and everything. You're like, yes, this movie's coming out. Billie Eilish releases the theme song for the movie, and we're like, yes, this movie is coming. Now, I don't know if you really remember some stuff that was going on in the world, say March, April 2020. We kind of had some things which messed up the schedule for everything. It was the first movie that was on the schedule when quarantine started happening, and so it's the first movie really to be influenced by it. And so they push it and they say, we're going to put it out in November now of 2020. Theaters will be open by then and it'll be good to go. Not so much. And so they'll say, well, you know, we're going to do it in April of 2021. Now, we're in May of 2021 now. And you can look around, and there's no Time to Die. Finally, though, they're saying it's going to be coming out in September in the UK and October 8th for us in the US. So, fingers crossed on that. Just to put it in perspective how much this movie's been pushed back and how the release of it has been like, I feel bad for everybody involved. The Grammys happened in March, and Billie Eilish won a Grammy for the song No Time to Die. And that movie's not even out yet. And it will be like 6 months for the movie to come out since she won her Grammy, which is just crazy. But anyway, I'm real excited about No Time to Die. If you have seen a James Bond movie, hey, what's your favorite one? What did I rank it? Oh, okay. I bet I didn't. I bet I put it someplace you're not happy about. But you know what? That's what this is for. Hey, let's talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it. Let's do it in the comments below. You let me know. What's your favorite James Bond movie? Or maybe if you don't remember which movie is which, hey, who's your favorite James Bond? Put it down there below. Make sure to hit like if you like this video, and subscribe if you want to see what we're doing every week, because we do have a new video every single Saturday. Thank you so much again for watching, and I hope to see you next week with our next video.